Andrew, on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show, we're interviewing the man who is single-handedly fighting against mass-scale voter fraud. His name is Matt Braynard, and he's a former Data Chief and Strategist for the Trump for President team. And this guy's just looking at the data, and he's finding out that people are committing mass-scale voter fraud. And his research has just begun. I mean, it is crazy. Andrew, do you think the average person knows that voter fraud is a thing?
It's starting to come out more and more, so I think it is becoming very common knowledge.
It's becoming more and more common, and folks, if you want to get the truth via social media, go to rumble.com right now, rumble.com.
Right.
It's like a uncensored version, unfiltered version of YouTube.
Yep.
Or go to Parler, which is currently the top most downloaded application today. The top app today is Parler, Parler.com, the top downloaded app. And I'm telling you what, these new apps are going to kill the tech tyrants. It is exciting stuff. And now, without any further ado, it's our interview with Matt Braynard.
Get ready to enter the Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top. Teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of five, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the CNC up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here.
Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, today's show is a very special occasion because we are alive, and it is always profound when we are above the ground. Dr. Z, how are you, sir? Oh, do I have you muted there? Am I a bad person?
You had me muted
I'm a
because
bad
I was
person.
talking to James,
Passive aggressiveness.
and you always mute me.
Sorry
You're
about that, sir.
passively
Sorry about that.
aggressively muter.
Okay, well, you're excited to be here.
I'm excited to be here, and I'm really excited about this next guest. And what a time to be alive in the United States of America. I mean, can you believe this last week? I mean, and every moment it's changing. You know, every moment. I mean, it's kind of a big deal, the election of the president and the senators and the members of Congress. It's kind of a big deal, and we are still in the middle of Tuesday night. I mean, I'm old enough, Clay, that I remember where by the end of the night, you kind of knew who won.
Well, this year it's been a little bit weird. We all went to bed going, hey, looks like the president's going to win. He's going to get his 270 votes, and we're excited. Well, then we woke up and we find out, okay, we don't know who the winner is. And then somehow, remarkably, Joe Biden keeps getting more and more votes coming from mysterious places. And so I thought, let's reach out to the former Data-in-Chief. This is a former Data Chief and Strategist for President Trump himself, Matt Braynard. Welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being here. And I'm assuming that our listeners get most of their information from mainstream media beyond most of our listeners tell me they listen to this show and then they watch Fox. So what do our listeners need to know about the election and the counting of the votes right now as America waits in sort of a terrified suspense? What do our listeners need to know?
Well, there's a lot of anomalies that we've noticed, and I put together a project to sort of look into them in ways that elections haven't been investigated before. We've designed several processes that are going to very patiently and thoroughly try to establish if there was anything illegal done in this election. And if we find nothing, we find nothing. But if we find something, we're going to make it public and share it with the people who can do something about it.
So what are some of the processes that you are using to investigate the ballots, and what are you finding so far?
Well, we're at the very early stage, and the way I like to compare it is if you've ever gotten a blood test done at a doctor. It takes a couple of days to get the results back, but they do a lot of tests. They check your cholesterol, they check your mineral levels, they check to see if you have potentially any kind of diseases. And that's sort of the process we're going through. So across the 6 states that are of great importance right now, we're conducting 6 different analyses. And each of them sort of attacks a different potential avenue for voter fraud to have taken place. And we're going to report those findings. A simple method we're using is looking at people who moved because they filled out a national change of address card and said, I don't live here anymore. Yet they voted they voted according to the state at their old address or from their old address. And we're going to call these people and ask, hey, did you actually cast that ballot? Because if they say no, that's a red flag. And we're just going through this process of collecting red flags. And in most cases, we're looking for individuals who are probably the victims of voter fraud and queuing them up to sign affidavits and declarations stating that. So all of our work product comes down to essentially something that's indisputable. We're not doing analysis to try to show some arcane formula or some crazy map or something. This is everything we're driving towards is something we would consider actionable in litigation or in legislation.
And how do you get the authority to do this? I mean, how do you just step in and do it? I mean, if I wanted to go and look at the
step aside,
the
folks,
ballots in Arizona,
ballots.
I mean, hey, I got
a premonition.
I'm Dr. Z. Step aside.
Obviously, you have the accolades and the access to do this that we don't have. But what kind of accolades and background or keys to the castle do you need to be able to get involved?
Well, the truth is, all it really took was knowledge and money. I did not plan to be doing this. I'm supposed to be with my wife right now in the Dominican Republic. But on Thursday, I posted a tweet sort of explaining several different methods that could be used to detect voter fraud. It was retweeted and retweeted and retweeted. Now, on Thursday, I had like 200 followers on Twitter, but it got picked up with such velocity. Now over 2.5 million people saw that tweet, and people are starting to demand, where can we give you money to do this? And, on Thursday, it was just me. And the next day, I put up a GoFundMe. We raised $220K in 24 hours. GoFundMe nuked that. We didn't get any of that money, and everybody got a refund. So we put a new thing up at GiveSendGo/voter integrity. And so far, I think we just crossed $400,000 to help fund this project. And I've just built the team because the second day I had to get one of my best friends and alumni from the Trump campaign to join me, and now we've got 4 Trump campaign people and 2 additional folks. So we're building up headquarters and staff. So this I did not expect to be doing this in this moment, but it just sort of the circumstances demanded it. Now, in terms of this is really a combination of 2 things: data and the data enhancements, and direct outreach through call centers. So the data I got, we had to obtain it through one of our vendors, but ultimately came from the state. These are the lists of people who voted early and absentee. We then enhanced it by adding things like date of birth, phone number, national change of address database, and matching it up against the Social Security Death Index and master death file. And that in itself is expensive. We spent over $100,000 on data.
Yeah.
We've isolated the people we want to reach out to confirm whether or not they're potentially victims of voter fraud, and that requires call centers. We have 3 call centers dialing right now. Ultimately, if we get fully funded, we're probably going to talk to reach out to at least between 1.5 and 2 million people.
Now, my understanding is, again, I'm looking at your Twitter feed from 4 hours ago, and correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong here, because I'm a novice in this world. In Pennsylvania, your initial analysis matched and said 1,922 voters. 1,922 voters. It says your initial analysis matched 1,922 voters on a first name, last name, birth date, who also cast early absentee ballots in nearby states: New Jersey, Maryland, Ohio, West Virginia. What does that mean, Matt? What does that mean? Break it down for the simple minds. Not our listeners are smart people, but for me, what does that mean?
Simple. It's illegal to vote in 2 states in the same general election. It's a federal crime, and our match is to attempt to discover people that have done that. It's one of the most rudimentary means of invalidating ballots or providing evidence of potential fraud. And we probably have some false positives in there, but that match actually, we only did it up against 5 states around Pennsylvania, not including New York, which you'd think would probably be the largest contributor to that. So this is a place for litigation to kind of start, and we're going to investigate these numbers further, but it is, I think, a significant finding.
On your Twitter feed on November 8th, you tweeted out, ballots cast by voters flagged as moved by the NCOA. In Georgia, 138,221 ballots. In Pennsylvania, 24,475 ballots. What does that mean when you say ballots cast by voters flagged as moved by NCOA? What does that mean?
So I've been using my Twitter feed in a way to try to promote the transparency of this project.
Yes.
I'm sure you're very familiar with a lot of people on the right who make a lot of noise, throw out a lot of red meat, and say, "Hey, give me money," and you don't really know what it does or if it does anything at all. I've insisted this project, is completely transparent. As transparent as I'm allowed to make it be. None of the money we're raising through Give, Send, Go goes to me personally, not a penny. So this is part of my attempt to be transparent. And part of the challenge of being transparent about something that is a very complicated subject is that, I've got to come in places like this, explain what I mean. I have a video pinned to the top of my Twitter feed explaining, all the processes we're going through. The significance of that number is that those are people who cast a ballot but have moved per the NCOA database, National Change of Address database, to someplace else. Whenever you move, you fill out a little card to get your address forwarded, right? You've ever done that? To get your mail forwarded, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, guess what? The Postal Service puts that in a database and sells it for a lot of money. So what we did was we took the voter rolls of people who cast early and absentee ballots. We bounced it up against the National Change of Address database. We found many people who had moved. Now, if you were doing an organized voter fraud effort, you would probably be looking to cast ballots of people who have not voted in a while. One reason you haven't voted in a while is because you've moved away. So we've been calling these people to ask, hey, the state has you recorded as having cast a ballot. Did you actually vote in this state? Now, most people we're reaching are saying, yes, I did. Most of them, but many of them are also saying, no, I did not cast that ballot. So basically what I was defining in that tweet was the universe of people we've identified to reach out to, which is why we need the money to fund a call center to call all of those people for whom we get a phone match and have filed NCOA and voted in the election. Does that make sense?
Yes. And once again, people maybe just kind of tuning in right now or maybe didn't catch it earlier. How can we support the cause?
Yes.
Tell us again, because I know your GoFund got pulled down. So what's the avenue to do?
The avenue is a website called givesendgo.com/voter integrity. Givesendgo.com/voter integrity.
Givesendgo.com/voter integrity.
Yep.
Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good.
Now, again, you're doing something unconventional. This effort is funded by small donors. This is not a biased analysis. The goal is honest information. Now, I have asked many of our listeners, I said, if you see voter fraud, please send me a video that either you have shot or someone you know has shot, because I want to be able to archive it on a website, on a platform called Rumble that's started by Bongino. Okay, I want to get that archived because we've had so many listeners. Now I'm in contact right now consistently on a daily basis, multiple times a day, with Roger Stone, the Roger Stone that President Trump recently said, hey, you can get out of prison now. He pardoned the guy, commuted his sentence is what he did. And so anyway, I've been archiving videos on Rumble, and I've also been archiving them on a website called BitChute. And I have not played these videos for you. I'm going to cue this up real quick here. And so I would like for you, because you apparently, sir, Matt, you know about voter fraud and what that looks like and what that sounds like, and I don't.
Joining me now from
so
Tulsa,
let me cue this up. This is
SBA.
Newsmax interview queuing up, which I didn't want to play, but let me cue up this audio here. Okay, so this is right here, audio of a poll watcher who was an attorney, and he was asked to leave the Detroit. And I'm going to show this video to you. And Matt, I want to, and again, you probably can't see this, but I'm going to hit play here. And I want you to look at this video real quick here.
Let's do it.
Hitting play here. Okay, this is in Detroit.
They're escorting all the attorneys out. What'd you do?
I asked her, what's the count? What's your name?
What's your name? Is he an attorney for us? Another attorney.
What's his name?
James Regal or something? Another attorney?
So James Regal, this attorney in Detroit, was asked to leave, allegedly, after he asked what the vote count was. And it was caught on video, and a Thriver sent it to us. It's archived. So I want to ask you, is that legal if, in fact, he was asked to leave? It's on video. If in fact, a poll watcher was asked to leave for asking the count, is that illegal, sir?
I'm a data guru and a political hack and analyst, but that's a legal question. I'm sorry, I can't really. That's not. I can't even speculate.
Okay, can I ask you this then, unrelated to that video, because it makes sense what you just said. What is the point of a poll watcher? Maybe people don't understand that. What is a poll watcher? What are they supposed to do? How is that supposed to work?
Well, I've actually been a poll watcher and organized poll watching organizations across many states. I was a poll watcher just a few months ago in a municipal election. The answer is that it depends on what state you're in. Every state has different laws about what poll watchers are allowed to do and not allowed to do. One thing I've advocated for is that poll watchers are allowed to do a lot more than they are currently allowed to do in most places, including taking notes, operating video cameras, taking pictures, anything like that. But again, this individual that you showed the video of, I didn't see the video, but I heard the audio.
Yeah.
He may have fallen afoul of the law that they're not allowed to yell or to say anything out loud or be considered quote unquote disruptive. Or he may have been well within his rights to ask that question. It just depends on each individual state. And so somebody that's a master, not just a master of poll watching, but a master of poll watching in that state would be the best person to answer that question.
Okay, and I've got another question for you, and I just want to get your take because, again, I'm assuming that a lot of our listeners, myself included, haven't spent a lot of their time looking into the rules of voting, who can vote, who can't vote, how that works. But I want to get your take on this. Rudy Giuliani, the famous former mayor of New York, he tweeted out, and I'm reading this. He said Will Smith's grandfather voted in 2017 and 2018. The problem is he died in 2016. If you are somebody, regardless of whether that particular situation turns out to be true or not, what is the penalty for somebody who uses a deceased person's name to go cast a vote? What is the penalty for that?
Again, that's a legal question, but I believe it was on the order of, depending on the state, a misdemeanor or a felony, and I believe it's also, apart from the state level, also potentially a federal crime, especially if it's a federal election. We've actually done a lot of looking into the dead voter
yes.
Issue, and that's part of one of our 6 analyses, and so far we haven't found a tremendous amount of action. And part of the problem is that it's very difficult to reliably determine who is dead, believe it or not, based on a voter file, because often what happens is there's somebody with the same name or close to the same name, or even somebody with exactly the same name who is at the same address because it's in the family. So somebody still lives at that house. We have identified with some confidence ballots have been cast in the name of dead voters this cycle so far, and we'll be releasing that data once it's reached our level of confidence. I don't think that dead people voting is a widespread problem, but it is potentially a symptom of somebody who has organized a voter fraud effort and has incidentally been casting ballots for people who just happen to be dead. They're not trying to do it so intentionally. It's just that when they're voting ballots for a lot of people who have not cast ballots in a while, they incidentally are getting people who've either moved or are dead.
Now, what we're going to do is we have some great people with us in the studio here, one of which happens to be an attorney by the name of James DeCristofaro. We have Aaron Antis with Shaw Holmes and Dr. Robert Zellner. I wanted to kind of go around the room, if I could, in kind of and during our final 5 to 6 minutes here, and do sort of a town hall where we can ask you any questions we want. So we'll start with Dr. Robert Zellner on behalf of our listeners, our 500,000 listeners who want to know the answers. People just want to get down to the truth, which is why so many people are getting excited, Matt, about what you're doing. They just want to get down to the truth. Z, what question do you have?
Matt, a 2-part question. One, I know that December the 14th, the electric college or the electoral college is supposed to meet. Do you see a delay in that? Have we heard about that? What's going to happen with that on December 14th?
Well, the electric college meets on December 7th. The electoral college is the one that's on the 14th, just to get the date straight.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
That's kind of the drop dead date, I think, for any kind of litigation or action.
Perfect.
That's why we're racing so quickly to get done with everything we're doing, because that's kind of that's the hard deadline in terms of discovering the kind of malfeasance or illegal activity that could potentially change the outcome as it appears to be right now.
Wonderful. That's you answer that question wonderfully. And I know it's kind of initial, and I know you've been on the scene now for a week or so working on this, or a few days, however many days. What does your gut tell you about these? And you said earlier on the show, you said 6 states. Would you just, for our listeners, make sure that they know what 6 states you're focusing on? And what is your gut on these 6 states?
The 6 states are Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. I mean, what my gut is right now is awfully curious, because I'm very curious to see what our findings will reveal. So far, we've gotten a lot of people in quite a few states that have said that I did not vote, even though a vote was cast in their name. So we're hunting that down. I'm curious to see, and there's, because we're only at the stage now where we can be able to begin to get into the field with our call centers. This is only we've only really had one full day in with our 3 call centers.
Got it.
There's several different analyses that I'm looking forward to getting the results, but I'm really just curious, and I think a lot of other people are too.
Are the election boards in these states going to listen to you?
It doesn't really matter. They don't have to. It's the courts, and we're pipelining.
Okay.
We're in communication with the president's attorneys and teams in, so far, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada, and we're supplying them with our findings, as well as other parties. So it's really up to the litigants in the courts.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Unbelievable. Again, folks, if you're out there right now and you want to learn more about the research, Matt, that you're doing, if our listeners want to learn more about the research that you're doing, what is the website they can go to right now to learn more about what you're doing, and when will your results be final?
The best way to find out what I'm up to is just to follow me on Twitter.
Got it.
It's twitter.com/MATT, B as in Bravo, RAY, N as in November, AR, D as in Delta, Matt Braynard. Maybe you can include that in the description of the podcast.
Put a link in there.
But the place to donate would be givesendgo.com/voter integrity.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm going to hit the follow button right now. Okay, so James, you're an attorney.
Yes,
what
sir.
final question do you have? Then we'll go to Aaron Antis for the final question. Again, on behalf of the listeners out there, we have people from coast to coast. I can tell you this. I have family right now in Arizona. I have family in California. I have family that I've talked to in Minnesota. I have family in many of these contested areas, the Wisconsin, these places, family, friends. And I can tell you there's a fever pitch in Michigan. I talked to a young lady today and sobbing. This woman is sobbing in Michigan, telling me that she saw with her eyes poll watchers being sent away, but doesn't have the data to prove what she's, it's like she saw things, and Matt's just getting down to the data of it. What question would you have for Matt about his research, what he's doing, counting the integrity of the election? What do you want to ask him?
Yeah, well, Matt, thank you so much for the work that you're doing,
Yep.
helping save America. This is great. I just wanted to definitely get this out there. Thank you so much. Even if you didn't start out this way, you're winding up this way, you're put in this position for a reason, and thank you so much for doing that. The question I have,
welcome.
okay, thank you. The question I have is, what is the single, if you have one, what is the single, we call it a smoking gun, what is the single most egregious, incontrovertible piece of voter fraud that you have seen so far? What does it look like? Is it a video? Is it a document that you're just like, oh my gosh, what just happened here? How can this be America?
Well,
How can
I
this
want
be
to be very
happening in America?
careful. At this point, I am not alleging voter fraud. I'm alleging very suspicious anomalies. The worst that I've seen so far is a husband and wife were sent absentee ballots to the place they used to live. They're both dead. Their daughter received them. The father's ballot was cast. They did not request, and this was not in a state that sends them out automatically. I believe this was Georgia. Those ballots were not requested, and they were not returned or voted. But her father shows up as having voted, and the daughter is quite heartbroken about it because she knows that the father would not have liked the outcome of the election, and she's horrified that his ballot may have been cast against his will.
Unbelievable. Aaron Antis, what is your final question here for, again, a gentleman who is single-handedly, he and his team are fighting to get to the data, get down to the truth. They're doing the research. They have an unprecedented method. It's an unconventional method they're using. They got a volunteer effort that's funded by small donors. They're not controlled by special interests and big donation groups. They're trying to get into the data. What question would you have for Matt Braynard?
Yeah, Matt. First of all, again, thank you. Like James said, I appreciate you working on this.
Yep.
And my question for you, I'm born and raised in Michigan. The first 24 years of my life were spent in Michigan, so my heart is there. I've got lots of friends and family.
He has
back
Tom
there.
Brady's name embroidered on his chest.
This is true. And so my question, though, is I think that there's a lot of people I know back there that are on both sides. And no matter where you're coming from, this is going to be a very contentious situation. I'm curious, are you recording the phone calls that you're making? Because everybody's going to say that it's false information when you put that information out there. So are you recording the phone calls so that you have something to give to someone who would want to verify what you have been working on?
Well, the ultimate work product of most of these analyses where we're engaging with an individual who we believe to be a victim of voter fraud, it all leads to the signing of an affidavit or a declaration under the penalty of perjury. So,
wow, okay.
And again, that's what courts depend on.
That's strong.
I actually won a court and federal case regarding voting by using declarations several months ago in federal court. So I know that that's what carries weight and is a significance. And none of the people we're talking to who are signing these are shy about telling their stories, if in a courtroom, if that's what's necessary.
Gotcha.
Matt,
Sure.
I appreciate you so much, and I want to do this right now because if I don't do it now, because we get busy. We have so many shows we're doing. Andrew, can you fish through the bag of truth and glory, the brown bag, and will you grab my credit card and let's donate $50 right now to the cause? Now, there's so many causes we're supporting. My wife and I feel like every day, because my wife's the one who pays everything. I'm like, hey, let's send 50 over here, 100 over here, 50 over there, 100 over here. But it is super important that everybody out here, if you can support this cause, this is so important. I mean, this is a grassroots cause. You're doing this because you want to get down to the truth of the matter, and I think it's super important. Everybody, right now, if we can donate $50,
I'm gonna match you $50 right now.
$50 right now.
I'm gonna do
Okay,
it right
and
now.
we're gonna do. How about this?
I'll jump on with
75. 75. 75.
I'll go 75.
We're going 75 right now. So Andrew's
go
gonna
75?
use the Amex there. It should be the Amex in there. Let's do $75.
I'll even do 75 on James.
Hey, 1776. Let's do 76.
76.
76 it is. Okay, and by the way, we're using James's credit card, right?
We're
Yeah, we're
I'm
all
using
using
mine.
James's
I'll be
credit
on
card.
there.
Right, okay. So we're going to get this done.
Let's do it.
And I want all the listeners out there, like this is a
Let's do
Jerry
this
Lewis
thing right
like it's a
now.
Jerry Lewis telethon.
Let's
Come
do it.
on and do this. This guy, he wasn't planning on doing this. No, Matt, you're not in it for the money, right? I mean, this money's not going to you. You said that.
Not
right?
one penny raised through Give, Send, Go is going to my pocket. Not a cent.
I'm building a new website after
I
Matt
could-
Saves America's voter integrity. I'm making a new website for Matt called Help Make Matt a Baller in 10 Minutes, and we'll work on that later. But first, we want to help just get the truth out there. This is great. None of the money you're spending, none of the money on yourself.
And all, pretty much the entire team here is pretty much all just volunteers too.
So let me make sure you get this. You're working long hours. The pay is there's no pay at all. So
None.
the pay is
Zero.
low.
Zero.
The work level is high. And I'm sure no good deed goes unpunished. I'm sure there's somebody on Twitter right now, because that's where the trolls like to go. I'm sure there's somebody on Twitter right now. Have you got any hate so far there, Matt, there for taking the time to do the research? Have you had anybody that's really getting irritated with what you're doing?
You know what? The overwhelming support on Twitter pretty much drowns out any detractors. I look at it, all I see in my Twitter, like I said, I only had 200 followers on Thursday. Now I've got like 20,000. I look at it, it's constantly updating. It's just likes and encouragement. My inbox is full of encouragement. Phone is blowing up with encouragement. There's so much of that. It kind of drowns out all the other voices.
Well, brother, we're going to donate to you right now. We're rounding up credit cards right now. We're donating. This is super important for everybody out there. If you have the capacity to make a donation, whether it's $5, I mean, if it's $10, if it's some amount at all, let's get this done. This is absolutely super important to make this donation. Again, the website one more time. I know somebody's driving, somebody's pulling over right now. Let's make that happen.
And
Give,
Clay, by the
Send,
way.
Go. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, and please, nobody donate using a dead person's credit card when you donate.
No, you
That's a
can't
good
do
point.
that. That's
Good point.
shady. Okay. So,
It would
again,
also be ironic.
Yes, it would.
Isn't that ironic?
all right. Hey, brother, thank you so much for
look
being
at the
on.
website.
You got to give him the website.
Wait, what
Come on.
website? What's the
Come
website
on,
one
Matt.
time? What website?
Oh yeah, givesendgo.com/voter integrity.
GiveSendGo.com/voter integrity. Make it happen right now, Thrive Nation. You can do it. Let's support this great cause. Brother, Matt, thank you for joining us, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Good
All
night.
righty. Bye. Now, Z, as we wrap up today's show, I did want to play some audio. This is from Rudy Giuliani's Twitter feed.
Rudy.
Andrew, I don't think I bought anything today. Can you call my wife real quick and see if she has it? And if not, we can use my other card or something. But just ask her real quick. Maybe she's
we just put it on that, and then you can.
Oh, I'll get it.
We double up on my card, and then you can just.
Well,
give me
it's going to cause me
this.
this like get hives if I can't find something. It makes me crazy. I'm gonna
Your
get hives.
Amex card, really?
Anything. If I can't find anything,
he's got a
Wow.
limit of only $69 on that card
Oh.
per charge, and
Now
this
let's-
is more
There you
than
go.
that.
Now let's make sure
Good point.
I want to make sure the listeners get this. Rudy Giuliani, this is the former mayor of New York, who is a powerful attorney. He posted this video, and Z, I don't know if you've seen this video.
I might have. I don't know.
Let's see. Aaron, can you hit the button so it cuts from me on the big screen to this particular video? There you go. Let's
There
hit
we
play
go.
here. Check
Okay.
this out. Here we go.
At the vote bailouts, which means we get your votes and we separate them. So if some of these votes happen to say, like this one, Donald J. Dumb Trump, that one just don't make it towards the mayor.
So we have a person who's counting the ballots, who's just ripping them up on TikTok, thinking it's funny. And Rudy Giuliani writes, he says, trace the phone, TikTok account, reverse trace the video. Come on, intelligence, do your job and start arresting these people. When in life can you loot, steal, smash bricks through windows and get away with it? Let alone opening mail and destroying it. Law and order. Now, I have so many examples of this that I could share, and so I thought what I would do today is just share a few of them that you, the listeners, have submitted to us so far. Now, there are, at this point, thousands of these examples. That we have. I have archived hundreds, but there are thousands. So let's queue up this one here. This is another voter fraud example. Now, this one here, this is a poll watcher in Detroit. Listen to him.
Not letting anybody in. It's complete nonsense. They're boarding up the glass windows where you can see what's going on in there when people start filming.
God.
It is a complete nightmare. It's a complete shit. But they're not fooling anyone. They're not fooling anyone. Who lies to you?
Their election.
This is a poll watcher explaining that he is not able to watch the polls because they kicked him out. Now, this one is the one that brought me to tears. It was so unsettling. And then the one I'll play next is even more unsettling that it blew my mind. I went from like tears to livid. This is in Detroit. Again, they wouldn't let people within 6 feet of those counting the ballots. The poll watchers were not allowed within 6 feet of the people counting the ballots. But then they boarded up the area where the ballots were being counted. Look at this.
Oh, yeah.
That's in Detroit. This is video footage we're showing.
This is a travesty.
All of this, if you want to see it, go to timetoFreeAmerica.com and click on the videos. At the top left, I have a button where I'm archiving all the videos that have been deleted from YouTube. Now, this next one to me, it's the most egregious. It's absolutely insane. Got me so upset. There's a lady, she's in Detroit, and she's pointing out that 130,000 ballots showed up, and all of them are in favor of Joe Biden. All of them. And there's a crowd outside that discovered that the ballots showed up, and they're showing up to support the president and to demand that a poll watcher can come in and count the polls. And watch this.
I am coming to you live from the TCF Center in Detroit, where there's a huge challenge to the ballots that arrived overnight in the city of Detroit in Wayne County. And we have hundreds of people chanting to stop the count. I've been told that President Trump, it's getting louder, President Trump has filed for a lawsuit to stop the count. Here's what's going on in Detroit. I left the GOP office to make photocopies. When we arrived back to TCF Center, we were stopped by security. I was in an elevator, and security wouldn't let the elevator go. And, you know, I just prayed really quick and asked the Lord for some help. And I'm like, sir, Mr. Security Guard, sir, what's the holdup? and I called our the office, the GOP office. We have some attorneys, and the attorney said, you let them know that you're on GOP business, that you've got copies that we need to do the job of challenging the poll. And this person called their supervisor. I was able to get up, but there are literally 1,000 people that are poll challengers and poll watchers that have not been allowed in the building. The security guard told me that it was the general manager for the building for TCF, who I happened to track down, and he said, no, it's not the building. It's the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services has called, Governor Whitmer has called on the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to come down and shut down the ability for us to be able to challenge these ballots.
And this is exactly what G.T. Bynum did when the President of the United States came to Tulsa, Oklahoma for a rally. I was at the rally. The rally was supposed to start at 7 p.m. At 7 p.m. or sorry, 7:30 p.m. The President of the United States was supposed to speak at the Bank of Oklahoma Center. I had a White House press pass.
Yep.
I'm there in the lower bowl of the BOK Center. And at 5:30, 5:40, the entire lower bowl was full. The energy was awesome. Then a guy in the front row saw my White House press pass and said, "Sir, do you work here?" And I said, "Well, I'm here. I was invited by the White House to cover this event." He goes, "My family can't get inside, and we traveled from St. Louis to be here to see our president." This happened to be a black man. And he goes, "I've never seen him in person. Why won't they let him in?" And I said, "How many people do you have?" He said, "Our whole family, man. We drove from St. Louis." And he said, they were told it's full in here. And I'm like, well, only the lower bowl is full in here.
Yeah, I mean, it's half full.
And so it ends up being the health department said, "Oh, no, we didn't say to shut it down."
Yeah.
The mayor says, "Oh, I think it was the health department." The facilities, and they just go round and round and
There's
round.
Only 3 people that could have shut it down.
So America, what's happening right now, as our guest is not going to say this, I'm going to say this. Our guest is saying there's some suspicious stuff going on, and he's going to do some research to get down to the bottom of it. That's what our guest is saying. Our guest is saying there is some suspicious stuff going on, and he's going to do some research to see for the low price of free to get down to the bottom of it.
Right.
That's what he's going to do. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
What I am saying is I have seen America be absolutely taken advantage of because ignorance is not bliss. And many of you listening right now need to wake up to the fact that doctors, mayors, doctors and mayors are lying to you. I had talked to an actual reporter when I was in line at the Trump event for a major, they have ABC, NBC, CBS, whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm listening to them talk in line, and one of them made the comment, "People are so stupid, they think these cases are real." And I heard them say it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, one of the personalities is a person you see on TV all the time. They're like, "These people are so stupid, they think this thing's actually real." Mm-hmm. And at some point, you, the listener, are going to wake up and understand that if COVID-19 was in fact this deadly disease that would cause everybody to just die, as these cases keep going up, you would think the number of deaths, the excess deaths, would go up as well.
Deadly virus.
And Rudy Giuliani, who apparently appears to be one of the only people in America who is an elected official who is distrusting of government, he actually posted the amount of excess deaths this year on his Twitter feed. And he pointed out that in these great United States, the number of excess deaths in these United States is less this year than it was in 2016.
And what do you mean by that term?
Well,
what does that mean?
Every year you
tell
track
the average Joe.
I'll pull
like
hit
me.
the button so it shows up on the screen. Here we go. It says the growth rate for the death in America went up in the last years of Obama-Biden. It says it went up more in the last years of Obama-Biden than in any year of the Trump years. This includes 2020, the year of the Chinese Communist COVID attack on the U.S. and the world. What it means is every year, the population grows. The amount of people that died more this year than last year goes up because as the population grows, naturally more people would be dying.
Right.
So if the population went up by 1.4% this year. You would think
Put that back on the screen.
You would put back on the screen. You would think that if last year, let's say 1.5% more people became Americans because they were born or moved here or whatever, then you would think the number of deaths would be proportionate with the number of people who are now Americans.
Makes sense.
And so in the year 2016, there was 1.27% more people that died in 2016 than in 2015. So in 2020 versus 2019, it's only 1.12. People, as we're having record numbers of COVID cases.
Oh, it's the deadliest pandemic in history.
As we're having record numbers of cases, we're not having epic numbers of deaths. And somebody out there, at some point, I don't know what your breaking point is, but at some point, you have to get the courage to say the truth. Now, I have some Bible verses. Z, if it's okay with you, I'd like to read some Bible verses.
The Bible.
I have really 4 Bible verses.
Is it a silent B? Is it the Ibble?
Matthew 5:11 from King James. It reads this. And I know we need to talk about the pronunciation of it because a lot of people aren't familiar with this word. But it reads, Matthew 5:11. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you.
Wow. Okay.
And persecute you and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. When people what does the word revile mean to you, Z? I'm not asking for a dictionary definition.
That's not a good word. Reviling means that it's beyond don't like them.
Yeah. It's not a fan club.
So
there's
now
like a revilers club.
So now we have a final thing. I hate to leave the show with like a harsh, deep thought.
Oh, don't do it.
But I think it needs to be done right now. Is somebody out there is probably thinking, oh, the Bible, oh, church, skinny jeans and fog machines. Oh, I get it. This is exciting. I know about the church. Let me open up the Bible if I can. Opening it up, dust it off. Matthew chapter 10, verses 34 through 36 reads, think not that I come to send peace on the earth. That means God. God's saying, think not that I have come to send peace on the earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. Verse 35. For I have come to set a man at variance against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be in his own household.
Wow.
So let me explain this to you. Abraham Lincoln had the thought, we need to end slavery. Now, I'm going to throw this out for somebody because somebody out there is not ready for this. I'm just going to give you time to adjust.
Oh.
Abraham Lincoln said, we need to end slavery. It's unjust.
Yeah.
Now, the only problem is there's one person in Abraham Lincoln's house that was okay with slavery. His wife.
That's true.
Yes.
And so for the rest of Abraham Lincoln's marriage, while we experienced the ending of slavery, while we got the chance to see that, while the world got a chance to see that, the Emancipation Proclamation, it ripped up his own household. And it says in verse 37, if I can continue, it says, he that loveth the mother or father, says, he that loveth the father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he that loveth the son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Now, this is really going to freak somebody out. If your daughter, your son, your husband, your cousin is unwilling to handle the truth, you might be in this chapter where it says, and verse 38, and he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. So
even
you have to
even a cousin?
You got to pick a side.
Even a cousin?
But Z, that is the tough part. Z, that's a tough thing.
It's a tough thing, but it's real speech, and it's where we are right now.
Yeah.
And I loved your rap song that you wrote.
Pick a side. We'll put it at the end of today's show.
Pick a side.
So good.
And that's what you've got to do. Everybody has the thing that is their determinator. And what I mean by that is it's kind of like they can't get past, or it's the most important thing, or it's the thing that they cast their ballot upon.
Yep.
You know, and it could be true, it could be false, but it's what they believe to be the truth.
It's what their truth hinges on.
Right.
Yeah.
Aaron, yes. And what happens is that whether it's right or wrong, that's what they bore down to. And some folks, it may be pro-life. It's kind of like, if the dude is pro-life or if the gal's pro-life,
Yep.
they got my vote, no matter what else they say about anything else in life.
There it is.
We all have those things that we camp out on.
True.
We pop our tent. We say, this is the mountain. This is what we're doing. Okay. But you have to question yourself this. If someone came up to you and said, are you a Christian? And you say, well, yeah. You need to really look in the mirror and understand where people stand on the issues that are most important in being a Christian. And what I mean by that is, Clay, I love those Bible verses you said. And I love the fact that we as a nation have free will. We have free will from our Father in heaven, God. And we also have free will currently from our government for the most part. But the thing about it is you have to use that and say, listen, what is the most important thing in my life? And when you bore down to it, what is the most important thing in my life?
Yep.
Where do I stand? What's the mountain I'm gonna camp on? Where am I gonna go with this? And I think so many people look at small things over here, peripheral things, and they camp on those.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, America, I'm telling you, United States of America, I'm telling you, Thriver Nation.
Yep.
It's been a crazy year. Normally, we're telling you how to build your business.
But it's
and
hard
keep it
to open a
open.
business if you're forced to be shut.
It is.
So we got to cover it.
And people are looking at now the power that we're giving people over us.
Yes.
For the first time. I mean, for the first time, a lot of people are going,
This is so true.
wait a second. They have the power to tell me I can't open my business? Really? I mean, you've got to really bore down and look at this right now. Because we're really a network of entrepreneurs and wantrepreneurs, people that want to open a business, want to keep their business going.
True.
People that have been successful in their business, or maybe somebody just wants to laugh every now and then. So that's kind of our wheelhouse kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, folks, you have to take a hard look at what's happened this year and the people that we're casting a vote for and the influence they have in your life, over your life. And this is any country. This is around the world. I mean, people listen to this podcast around the world. We have camps being set up to
internment camps in Canada,
internment camps in New Zealand, and
families being separated in Australia.
Yes.
See, I have a positive thought for you.
Oh,
good. There's a reporter I talked to today off air who called me and asked me to do, and he wanted to interview me today.
Oh, okay.
And I said, I'm not interested in doing an interview with you.
Because
I said I don't want to have a soundbite conversation with you. I want to have a long-form conversation with you, if I can, for 5 to 10 minutes. He said, okay. True story. And I said, let me explain to you something. One, the models that predicted that 2.2 million people might die were funded by Neil Ferguson and the organization called the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute. Did you know that? He says, no. So please look it up. So wait. He looks it up. Okay. That organization was funded by Amazon. Did you know that? No. He doesn't know.
Jeff Bezos.
I said, are you aware that the models were wrong by 25 times? He says, no. Are you aware that the flu deaths have almost entirely gone away this year with COVID? He says, no. So we had that. He goes, geez, dude, you're on it. And I said, no. Second thing, are you aware that the actual PCR tests used to test people, the guy who invented the PCR test, up until his dying day, he would tell anybody they should never use this in a pandemic. These PCR tests are wrong. I tried my best, but they didn't work out the way they should, and they shouldn't be used. We shouldn't. It's like you made a mistake. You just don't use them. Whatever. Yeah. And he said, I didn't. I said, well, look it up. He looks it up, and I said, so you right now, just make sure you get this. You are thinking you're helping people out by sharing about the cases, aren't you? And he goes, well, yeah. I want to make sure people are safe. I said, but and he goes, and he interrupts me. He goes, hurting people. And I said, yes. And your attempt and your altruistic belief to try to help people out, to share the truth about the cases, and he goes, hurting people. And he goes, can I ask you, sir? I said, what? He goes, a lot of these reporters are 27, 26, 22, 24. Oh, yeah. And he goes, sir, can I ask you? I said, yeah. He goes, and he just awkward pause. He goes, because he felt almost like awkward, like you ask a question like you don't seem dumb. He goes, the luciferase vaccine that Bill Gates is developing with the patent number
The
W0.
It's a vanity number.
We could choose.
We could choose a number.
The patent vanity number he chose was W02020060606.
So break that in. So W0 and
World
then
Order.
2020.
This is the year.
That's the year. And then 060606.
That's the mark of the beast as written about in the book called Revelations. And
in a book called the
which was written by a guy many, many years ago. And he says that no man may buy or sell without the number.
Yes.
And if you read the King James, it's particularly...
Well, you have to use your voice like this if you're reading the King James.
It's particularly haunting. It says, and that no man, this is Revelations chapter 13, verses 17, it says, and that no man might buy or sell save that he had the mark or the number of the beast or the number of
the
his
name of the
name.
beast. The name
Here is the wisdom. Let that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And a score is 20.
Yes.
And so therefore it'd be six.
And I'm repeating it again because I made a mistake the first time through. I'm reading Revelations chapter 13, verses 17. It says, and that no man might buy or sell save that he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name.
Well done. You did much better that time.
And it says, here is the wisdom. Let that hath understanding. Meaning, if you understand what the words coming out of my mouth, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So this guy, he says, oh my God, I was raised Catholic. It's a real thing. And I go, yep. And he goes, dude. And it went from this antagonistic, why aren't you requiring your employees to wear mask mandates, to a complete revelation, to a, sir, can we talk tomorrow?
The truth will set you free.
We got to rush into the truth. We can't avoid it. We can't hide from it. We got to rush into it, lean into it. We got to pursue
spread
it.
The truth, folks.
It's got to happen. That's why we do this show.
That's why we do it.
This is so true. Let me throw one other thing. You're talking about dividing.
True.
Yes. You're talking about dividing lines?
Yeah.
I think the dividing line of the Bible is actually John 10:10.
Ooh.
And if you pull that one up, it is the thief comes only to kill, steal, and destroy.
And spread COVID.
But I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And that's Jesus speaking. And that's the dividing line of all things. Because if it's something that brings stealing, which I know lots of business owners that have been stolen from by our government this year.
Yep.
If you want to talk about killing, yeah, there's been people who have died from this virus. Okay, even though it is only 0.00006%.
Yeah,
and
car wrecks too. We don't want to get rid of cars, but
right.
It is what it is.
So stealing and killing and destroying, and there's been so many people who have plunged into depression and just their whole families have fallen apart, committing suicide, drug and alcohol issues.
Yep.
So to steal, kill, and destroy, it says the thief comes. And really, the thief, that's Jesus talking. If you look at the context there, he's talking about the devil. So he only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And he says, I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly.
You might not believe in heaven and hell and God and Jesus and Satan.
You might not.
But Bill Gates believes in Satan, and he chose that patent number.
Yes, he does.
It's a vanity number. That's what's so ironic about it. People go,
it's like a license plate number.
That's kind of a random number they gave.
And the name
he chose the number.
And the technology. And the technology is called, the overall technology is called luciferase.
Yeah.
Lucifer race.
It's
so obvious.
This is hidden in plain sight.
Exactly.
You may be listening to it going, these guys are absolute whack nut conspiracy wackos.
Go to timetofreeamerica.com and fact check everything I said.
Yeah, but Google hasn't even taken it down yet. I mean, this is all hidden in plain sight, folks.
Oh, man.
You can't make this stuff up. I mean, you can, but then it's like...
It's like a bad movie where it's Captain Obvious and every character has names that are obvious.
Right.
I don't think Satan's that smart. I don't know. But I'll just tell you this, folks. If you're out there today, what do you got to do? Pray. Step one, pray. And let's support today's guest. Let's do that. Let's end this thing with a boom. Here we go.
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1, boom. Andrew, it's time for a bonus fry. Bonus fry. Andrew, are you familiar with what a bonus fry is?
I am familiar with the bonus fry. It's that extra fry down there at the bottom of the
After
bag.
you've eaten what you believe to be all the
gone.
incredible salty French fries.
That's right.
You said, I'm done. I've eaten them all.
Glory
and you
pops out of
find
the bag.
one more.
That's right.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's beautiful.
We're doing a bonus fry edition of the Thrive Time Show because I was just asked to be on another show today. It's called The Savvy Truth.
Yep.
And who is the host of The Savvy Truth?
That is what I'm looking for.
Are you playing games over there? Andrew, let me give you a pro tip, okay? Her name starts with a Savannah and ends with a Lynn. That's the pro tip. What do you think her name is?
Savannah. What's in the middle between Savannah and Lynn?
I don't know that, Andrew. You don't usually typically reference someone's middle name unless they're in trouble. But on today's show, I was interviewed today on the Savvy Truth Show by Savannah Lynn, and so I thought I would share this audio with the listeners so they can hear about a lot of the things that she asked me about on her program. And so now, without any further ado, on to part 2, the bonus fry edition of the Thrive Time Show. Here we go.
And I'm not going to sit here and stay silent and not call it out. I'm calling out the lies.
With rules for Thanksgiving. Who the hell is he to tell us what we're supposed to do?
Do they think that we are so stupid that we will not notice and find out? On November 2nd, I woke up in the greatest country in the world. On November 3rd, I woke up in the greatest country in the world. And on January 21st, I will wake up in the greatest country in the world. Joe Biden would have us believe that we are in for a dark, dark winter and that America will no longer be America. But I, alongside 75+ million other American patriots, will not let that happen. The media has never and will never decide who our next president will be. That will be up to the courts. So for everyone involved in the cheating and in the fraud, who used the programs like Scorecard and Hammer, your time is coming because someone was watching you, and I'm not just talking about God. We have the greatest plumber ever elected into the office of the United States, Donald J. Trump, our 45th president, and he is about to make the final drain of the swamp. Because at long last, we finally have a president who puts America first. He had our backs through the face of adversity and all the evil thrown his way, and now it is time for us to have his. So hey, Democrats, don't tread on me, because if you want America, you can come take it. And that, for today, is your savvy truth. I loved that video. You know, I get extremely passionate when talking about politics, Americans, and liberal lunacy, hypocrisy, and the craziness of the left. And the 2020 election has been all of those plus more. But anyway, let's welcome to our guest to the show today, Clay Clark. Now, you may recognize his name from a previous episode, but we obviously did not have enough time to even scratch the surface of what we were talking about. So we brought him back for a part 2. Welcome to the Savvy Truth again.
Thank you for allowing me to be here on your show again for part 2.
All right. So what is new with you? What's been going on? The last time we talked, it was sort of a pre-pandemic, and now we're in post-pandemic, although I hear it's apparently coming back now that Joe Biden hasn't been elected president-elect.
Well, let's do this. Let me cover some ground for your listeners who maybe aren't familiar with this. But as we talked about previously, the models that originally predicted that 2.2 million Americans might die from COVID-19, they turned out to be wrong. Those models were created by Neil Ferguson. His organization is called the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute, and his organization was funded by $700 million from Amazon. So everybody do a search right now. Type in Amazon funds the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute, and you'll see that the models predicted by Neil Ferguson that said 2.2 million Americans might die, those were wrong. And now we moved on to the PCR tests. Since people weren't dying in droves, now we have to move on to the cases. And the PCR tests turned out to be fake, and then even more fake. In fact, the U.S. military had to issue a retraction to 600,000 people because they, in error, told 600,000 people that they had COVID-19. And that was reported by military.com and countless media outlets. And now we're saying that we're going to have to all take a vaccine to be able to go back to normal. And I'm not sure how much you've covered the vaccine or haven't covered the vaccine, but I would love to talk to you until your brain explodes about the vaccines, because what is in those vaccines is obscene.
So basically what you're saying is that everything Fauci, Gates, the Clintons, the Obamas, the Bidens predicted that was going to happen didn't exactly happen. And when that didn't go their way, they faked COVID cases and faked COVID deaths to make it look like Donald Trump was failing. And now I hear there's a vaccine coming out, which is fantastic. It is amazing that that Trump has brought a vaccine to the table so quickly when we don't even have a vaccine for SARS, bird flu, or Ebola, or a host of other diseases that came around during other presidential administrations. But you know what I hear is that Fauci isn't going to let his family and kids take the vaccine. Gates isn't going to let his family and kids take the vaccine. So question, why should we? Oh, wait, we're not billionaires? Is that why we're not that worth that much and we're a little bit more susceptible to the lies that is the big tech billionaires?
Well, I thought what I could do is I could read to you the patent for the vaccine, or explain to you what's in the vaccine. The vaccine technology is known as what is called Lucifer race. Like Lucifer, but race, Lucifer race, 2 words, Luciferase. And you can learn more about it if you go to YouTube. You can't learn about it there, so you need to go to BitChute. It's bitchute.com, or you can find it on Rumble. But the best place I would say to start is go to timetofreeamerica.com, my website. And when you go there, you click on the truth about the vaccines. You can read about the vaccines. And I just want to read to you some of the things that are in these vaccines, and you tell me if this sounds good. The vanity patent number that Bill Gates chose to file for these vaccines is W020200606. Think about that. The number that he chose was W0, like World Order, 2020, 060606. Now, I think you've been to church a few times. What's wrong with that number 060606? What's wrong with that?
Well, I have to say the number 666 is the devil's number. And you know what? I called that out back when Dr. Simone Gold was in front of the America's Frontline Doctors preaching. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, you're being so melodramatic. The patent number isn't 060606. And I was like, look it up. This cannot be more interesting. So go on.
Yes. So what you do is you open your Bible to Revelations. And I know a lot of us have been busy. And maybe we haven't had the time, we're watching The Voice, we're going to games, we're being distracted, we're perpetually distracted. But, let's open up the Bible for the first time in a while. Let's dust it off. We're blowing it off here. We get the dust off. Okay. Revelations chapter 13, verses 17 reads, "And that no man might buy or sell, save that he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." You go, oh, this is kind of weird. Let's move on to verse 18. Let's do verse 18. So we do verse 18. We're moving on down again, and I'm just letting it give some time to kind of sink in. And it says, here is the wisdom, verse 18. "Let him that hath understanding," basically the people who listen to your show, the people that understand what's going on. Here is the wisdom. "Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, meaning that the number is 666. Now, let's do some further mind-blowing research for the listeners. I want all the listeners, type in Epstein creates race of people into Google or DuckDuckGo, and you will see the New York Times article that said Jeffrey Epstein hoped to seed the human race with his DNA. You'll see The Guardian reporting, Epstein reportedly hoped to develop his own human race. You will see The Independent saying that Jeffrey Epstein wanted to create his own race. And you will see that Jeffrey Epstein bankrolled Harvard scientists to bioengineer his own race. Now, you didn't hear about this on the mainstream media, but if you will type in DOJ, as in Department of Justice, indictment, okay, and then Lieber, all right, Harvard. So Lieber, okay, this is a guy named Lieber. He's a Harvard University professor by the name of Lieber, Dr. Charles Lieber. On June 9th of 2020, he was 61 years old, and he was indicted by the federal grand jury on 2 counts of making false statements, and he failed to disclose that he was getting $50,000 a month to develop this technology. And guess who bought the technology from Lieber? Bill Gates. Oh, yes, Bill Gates. So that is what's going on. And I know that I've ruined the dinner for some people. I've ruined the evening for others. But it's the truth, and we must pursue the truth. We must not avoid the truth. We must pursue the truth.
How come all of this sounds like it came out of some dystopian futuristic movie. Everything just seems to keep revolving around Bill Gates, around Fauci, around Epstein. And people will go, you guys are so hung up. You're all dried out. You don't have anything except these 3 old white dudes. And I'm like, because everything goes back to them. Because they seem to be involved in everything. They have money in everything. They have some very strange and very coincidental connections with all sorts of very powerful people, especially some people who have mysteriously committed suicide, disappeared, had their car drone off a cliff. The list goes on.
Well,
this cannot honestly sound more like a conspiracy theory, but honestly, what my favorite line is, it's not a conspiracy theory if there's evidence for it. That's called unprosecuted justice.
It's a conspiracy plan. I mean, if we look up the word conspiracy, if we look that up, I agree with what you just said. If we look up the word conspiracy, just for the definition for a second, it's a secret plan by a group to do something unlawful or harmful. That's what that means. So, I have employees, hundreds of employees that work on for my businesses. And I can tell you, usually the last person to know when someone's quitting is me. Usually the last person to know that somebody is starting a company to compete directly with me and is trying to take customers away is me. Anybody who owns a business knows that. Anybody who's ever been cheated on in a relationship, you're usually the last one to know. Anybody who's ever been dumped by the significant other that you thought was going to be your dream woman or dream man, you're usually the last one to find out. And what happens is Satan and Christ have different goals. So this is my goal today and every day, is I want to share the gospel with as many people as I can, share the truth, and then you're free to choose whatever you want to do. So if I'm talking to you today, Savannah, and you say, Clay, you're a bizarre guy, I don't like your hat, don't like you, don't like the Bible verse you're talking about, and I reject you, I'm not going to go burn your house down. I'm not going to go take, I'm not going to rob, I'm not going to steal, I'm not going to shame you on the internet. I'm going to leave you alone because I'm supposed to share the truth with love as expressed in Ephesians, the book of the Bible. However, if you are satanic, or if you are Luciferian, or if you are a Nazi, or if you are a fascist, or a communist, or a socialist, or whatever name you want to call it, you say you have to see my point, and if you don't, your lack of understanding is bigotry, and therefore you must be canceled. You must be fired. You must be excommunicated. You must be silenced, because we cannot let you have choice. So really it comes down to Satan and the man upstairs, God, Jesus Christ. So if you are of the Jesus Christ persuasion, anything that is for Christ is called pro-Christ. Anything that's against Christ, we'll call it antichrist. And so I want everyone to think about this for a second. It talks in the Bible that every tongue shall confess that Jesus is Lord. And I got to thinking as a young kid, how is it possible that every tongue shall confess? Well, right now, as we're seeing this world around us happen, and you listen to the music overhead at a grocery store, you're going to have to ask yourself, is that music pro-Christ or anti-Christ? When you buy a product or service, a lot of people are leaving Twitter today, right now. The most downloaded app in America right now is Parler, Parler. It's like the Christian version or the pro-Christ version of Twitter. And what's happening is we have enabled as a culture, by not understanding that some things are pro-Christ and some things are anti-Christ, we have voted with our dollars and we have supported people that are anti-Christ. So now we have a group of very powerful anti-Christ people that have the money to do very terrible things. And it is now time, I call it the Great Awakening, maybe chapter 3 of the Great Awakening, and it is up to us as a culture right now to decide, are we going to be a country that's pro-Christ or anti-Christ? Because the reason why this country has prospered is not because of our financial resources. Venezuela was a very prosperous country for many, many years. But then they fell to communism, and then socialism and communism. And now, even though they have huge, vast resources and beautiful coastline, Venezuela is a poverty-stricken nation. People can barely afford to eat over there. There's starvation everywhere. So a lot of people need to recognize, we need to go back to the beginning and recognize this nation was blessed by God because we believed when we founded our country that the Declaration of Independence, we actually wrote that in the Declaration of Independence, that we have certain unalienable rights that were given to us by God. So we can't take Christ out of church, can't take him out of sporting events, can't take Christ out of things and expect our country to work. We are one nation in God we trust. So we must turn to Christ now.
And you know, that's all we can ever do is just show love and speak truth. And the truth is hate speech to people who usually spend their life lying and trying to avoid the truth. And you're totally right in the sense that America is the last Christian nation on the face of the earth. America is what stands in the way of worldwide evil persecution, not on just Christians, but on everybody. And I can't help but sometimes just look at my country and go, what are we doing? Why are we burning our country to the ground? Why are we murdering 1/3 of my generation? Why are we brutally attacking each other for simply standing up for what we believe in? It doesn't make sense to me anymore. And I have to ask myself, what causes a nation who was once so together in the face of all adversity and who came up with this crazy idea called America, the greatest experiment that ever happened? Like, how did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong? And then I have to go back to, we have the devil, we have Satan, there's evil in this world. God gave us the right to choose. And a lot of times we choose wrong.
Let me say this. How old are you, by the way? How old are you?
16.
Okay. So on behalf of all men, we're sorry. We're getting better. We're doing our research. We're figuring out how to be nicer people. But I know guys, when I was in high school, they would have the most nefarious and terrible plans when they would take a young lady on a date. They had bad intentions, bad people. And you would say, why? What is wrong with you? Why would you intentionally want to harm somebody's feelings, their emotional state? Why would you do that? And they would brag about it. Oh, I told her this and this happened. And I'm going, that's crazy. And I would go, what is wrong with these people? Well, you start to find out they're whether they know it or not, they're under like a satanic spell. They don't even know it. And so what's happening right now is, whether you believe it or not, Moloch is the biblical name of the Canaanite god, the false god, associated with child sacrifice, okay? And Kanye West was interviewed, not me, Kanye West was interviewed by Joe Rogan. This is less than 14 days ago. He was interviewed by Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan's talking to him about his net worth and the Gap deal and the shoes and the success, and you want to use the word billionaire a lot because people will tune in, and Joe Rogan's doing the thing. And then Kanye stops. By the way, it's 62 minutes into the interview, 62 minutes in. Kanye stops and says, did you know, Joe, that 1,000 black babies, 1,000 black American babies are aborted per day, which means that there will be more black children killed this year than all Americans from COVID. That is called genocide. We are in genocide. Plan B, the abortion drug, was their plan A to lower the count of our families. Okay? It's in a song called Ego Death, too. And Joe's like, what? And he goes, Plan B, the morning after pill, that was their plan A. And he says, he explains to Joe Rogan that the founder of Planned Parenthood was into eugenics, which is depopulation. And her goal was to ultimately eliminate all black people from America. And guess who also is into eugenics? Bill Gates. Hitler. And Bill Gates' father was a big-time fan of Planned Parenthood. So if you want to sit there and live in a Candyland world where this does not exist, that would have been fun. I remember that when you could talk about, God, we watched The Voice tonight. No, that's kind of played out. We watched Survivor reruns. No, let's watch Netflix. No, but now we're seeing Netflix has the Cuties show, and you got to ask yourself, are you going to support Netflix that is promoting a pedophile festival known as the Cuties movie? Is that what you want to?
We canceled Netflix a long time ago, long before this whole cutie thing came out. And I called it back then. I was like, Netflix, you haven't done much good and you ain't going to do much good. And look, they proved me right. They came out with a movie of 11 to 12-year-old girls sexualizing themselves for pedophiles. Am I surprised? No.
Can I give your listeners, I want to give your listeners some resources today. I mean, obviously, we have the Thrive Time Show podcast, and God has blessed us. We have 500,000 listeners, and just so people know, I don't take advertisers because I never want someone to say, hey, don't say that because that guy is funding this, and therefore you can't say that because that would offend her. So we don't take advertisements, okay? And it's called the Thrive Time Show. And you can go there. You're always going to find truth there. But I would encourage everybody to just write down 4 tools today. They're going to totally change your life. 4 tools. You get these 4 tools, you go, oh, what? Okay, tool number 1, Parler. Parler. We just interviewed the founder of Parler on our show. It is what Twitter was supposed to be. It is totally unfiltered. And when you just go on Parler, your exposure to the truth, your mind will blow up. You're going to see video footage today of wholesale voter fraud. I mean, you're going to see where they are actually boarding up and preventing poll watchers from watching the polls. You're going to see a vote counter just throwing out all Trump votes. That's Parler.com. Second tool, Rumble. Rumble's like the opposite of YouTube. It's like an unfiltered YouTube. You go on Rumble, you're going to see videos of the founder of Black Lives Matters, okay, Patrisse Cullors, explaining that she prays to a demon by the name of Ifa and gets advice from Ifa. You will discover that the Ant Company, one of the largest companies in China, funds Ifa, Antifa. You're going to find that. That's like, boom, it's the founder of Black Lives Matter talking about it. Third tool, the Bible. Oh, yeah, see, you go, the Bible, what? The Bible, yeah.
The greatest book ever written, you mean?
Yes. And the thing is, it says, let us not forsake in the Bible's Hebrews. I encourage you to read the King James Version because certain verses are taken out in the different translations. And I'm not going to argue with you about translations, but if you do the King James Version, Hebrews chapter 10, verse 25 reads, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more, as ye see the day approaching. You got to go to church. You got to get the Bible out, okay? Now, this is something, this is a conversation. I'm correcting myself right now. This is for me. This is education for me. I interviewed Rabbi Daniel Lapin. He's a scholar. And I said, Rabbi Lapin, I want to know. I have heard from various Bible scholars that in the Hebrew language, there's not a word hero. Is this true? And he says, yeah. It's because we shouldn't have heroes on earth. We should look to God as the example because all men will fall short, including you and me. And I'm like, that's true. And so there was a time in my life where I didn't go to church because I thought that, well, that pastor had an affair, that guy made a mistake, that guy screwed up, and therefore church is all bogus. But here's how the story works. We are all idiots. Not you, not your listeners, but I'm an idiot. I'm a father of 5, but I'm an idiot. I'm not that smart of a guy. I've made mistakes. I'm very good at growing a business. That's all I got, okay? I have 5 kids. I'm good at growing companies, whatever. But I've made mistakes. And if you would base your opinion of Christ, the God, I mean, unbelievable, perfect, and you based your vision for what Christ is based upon me in the event that I ever became your pastor, you would be seeing 1/10 of 1/1,000,000% of what God could be. Because even at my best, I'm not even in the category of his worst. And so what we need to do is, what does a pastor do? A pastor, their job is to illuminate the scripture and to get you in the word and explain to you what things mean. They are not meant to be the perfect example of what perfection looks like. That's called God. Okay? So we need to redefine our heroes. If you're looking to Jack Dorsey of Twitter to be your hero, not good. Mark Zuckerberg, not good. If you're looking for any type of heroes on earth, when you start looking up Tom Hanks on DuckDuckGo, when you start looking up Mark Zuckerberg, when you start looking up Bill Gates, your definition of hero needs some changing. So we all need to start to look to the boss who earned that right by dying on the cross. We all need to get to church. We do not need to forsake the gathering. And I'm telling you, if you don't like your pastor, if you go to a church where the pastor is not perfect, you're going. Because the idea is every week we want to reframe and get back to the ideal. And the ideal is we want to be more Christ-like. That's the goal.
And that's what I just want America to be. America doesn't need to be perfect. We just need to be Christ-like. And that's all we can ever do is just turn back to God. And that's the only thing that ever keeps me going. I put my faith into this election and I didn't even realize it. And this past week has really just opened my eyes that I need to start putting my faith back in God. And I always said that I did, but I don't think I realized how much I was putting my faith in winning an election and how I was putting my value and my purpose in that. So everyone, you heard it here first. Go read the Bible, the greatest book ever written, the #1 bestseller around the entire world, the book that will save your life, and the man that died for you.
I want to say this.
Clark, it's been awesome to have you on the show. We're going to have to do a part 3 because I feel like there's not enough time in the day to talk about Jesus.
I want to encourage you real quick on something. This is good for your listeners, okay? Roger Stone and I are working in conjunction with Rudy Giuliani right now and General Flynn. And I've been somehow tasked to round up facts from our listeners. And I have a document we get off air. I'll share it with you of all the documented voter fraud. And I'm just telling you, there is epic amounts of voter fraud, and we are going to win this thing. It's going to happen. The truth will set us free. Just know Jesus has a plan. He didn't forget about us. He has a plan for us. We just need to shake. We need to be shaken as a country. We need to awaken. People like me need to figure it out. So thank you, God, for being patient with me.
I think this past week has been God's way of saying, hey, guys, put your faith back in me.
Yes.
I've got a plan. I'm in control. And the evilness, the hate, the frauds, the cheaters, the liars, the criminals, they're all about to be revealed quite soon. And I'll be the judge of them, not y'all. So, Clay Clark, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been awesome to have you on again.
Thank you so much. You, my friend, are a great American.
Thank you.